What's up, yo? Prince Sports here. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Hope everybody's doing well. I want to start out with some fantasy stuff, all right? Now, let's take a little time machine, get into that time machine, and take a trip back into 2011, right? Now, going into the 2011 season, LeBron James was the biggest star on the planet. And he was going into free agency. We all know he signed with Miami Heat, changed the landscape of basketball, created that big player movement. Plenty other players followed, Kevin Durant being one of them. And it changed the whole landscape of how a superstar is perceived and looked at. So, let's say this. Let's say LeBron James never did that, leaving the old school values still stuck in the mentality of basketball players, right? LeBron James re-signs with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, and perhaps probably the worst decision of his life, he decides to stay loyal to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, so in 2011, they would have went into the playoffs with the same. They would have went into the season with the same roster most likely. A little twerks here and there, a couple of garbage time role players picked up. They still would have had Danny Green. They still would have had Mo Williams and probably Grandpa Shaq, right? Now, Chris Bosh goes to the Miami Heat regardless, right? It's D Wade and Chris Bosh. They go to Miami because Chris Bosh was one of those guys LeBron James was trying to recruit to Cleveland. Bosh wasn't having it. He said, I'm not coming to Cleveland at all right? So, 2011 was also the year Derrick Rose emerged as the youngest MVP ever in NBA history. All right, team leads the team to 62 wins. Okay, that stays the same. That part of history stays the same. All right, LeBron James has an MVP-like season. He puts that Cavaliers team on his back. He gets them the 4th seed. Okay, let's split it down to the 4th seed. Now, Miami Heat is doing it big. They like a 3 or 2nd seed. Wade and Chris Bosh are clicking. The team is pretty good, but they're missing that player to take them over the top, basically. And now, don't get me wrong, Wade was still a top 5 best player in the game, so he's going to lead his team to a 2nd or 3rd seed. But as the season will play out, the Miami Heat continue to suffer against the Chicago Bulls that continue to give them a beatdown in the regular season. Okay, move on to the playoffs. First round, LeBron James, 4th seed. He goes into the playoffs. 2nd round, he manages to make it to the 2nd round, but the 2nd round he's going up against the number 1 seed, the Chicago Bulls. Right, so the Chicago Bulls play the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's not really much of competition. The Cavs just don't have enough talent to match up with the defensive-minded Chicago Bulls. Derrick Rose in his MVP season, they take LeBron James out in 6 games. So Joakim Noah will have 1 victory over LeBron James throughout his career because he always complaining that he never got 1 victory on LeBron James. But if LeBron re-signed with Cleveland, he would have gotten that victory. Now, the Bulls go on to the championships, okay? They go on to face Dallas. Nothing changed. Dallas Mavericks and the Chicago Bulls are your NBA finals. The Dallas Mavericks play zone defense on Derrick Rose, force him to become a jump shooter, same way they did to LeBron. Derrick Rose loses in 5 to 6 games. Dirk still gets his championship. History still stays the same. All right? Now, LeBron will face another season of losing, but this will not be he won't take the criticism that he had for being that big meltdown that he had in 2011. All right? He will still put up all-star MVP style numbers. Okay? Now, 2012, the Cavaliers are struggling. They're looking for a way to better the team. LeBron James is probably putting his foot on Dan Gilbert's neck. Hey, we need some superstars. We need some power in here. All right? So, the Cavaliers trade. They don't trade. They land Tyson Chandler, because Tyson Chandler was a free agent that year, remember? So they land Tyson Chandler. Dallas Mavericks split up a little bit. Remember, that was a one and done team. They split up after that, and a lot of the players just went bye-bye. You know, they never had a chance to redeem themselves. David West signs to the Indiana Pacers, which becomes a big deal in the long run, because the Pacers, this would be 2012, this would be the emergence of the Indiana Pacers with Paul George. And, you know, they become a top elite team with Lance Stevenson, Lance Make 'em Dance, Paul George, you know, David West, that whole defensive-minded team. Now, another thing plays out in that year. You guys remember the Vito trade, right? For a lot of you Los Angeles Laker fans, Chris Paul was about to go and play with Kobe Bryant. They made that trade. Kobe's congratulating Chris Paul. He thinks he's going to win some more chips. He's happy about that, right? Okay. The trade happens. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, it gets vetoed. All right. The meeting still takes place. The trade gets vetoed. Okay, Chris Paul never makes it to the Los Angeles Lakers. That just happens. Let's just say history plays itself out that same way. But realistically, the reason why that trade was vetoed mainly was because the NBA was taking a lot of pressure because LeBron James went to the Miami Heat to form that big three. And a lot of owners was getting scared that players was taking their own careers into their own hands. Now, if LeBron never went to the Miami Heat, there's probably a good chance that trade goes due and Chris Paul ends up becoming a Laker, you know? But for argument's sake, let's just say things went out the way it went out. For some other reason, you know, Chris Paul still never goes to the Lakers, all right? Now, Mo Williams was a piece that the Cleveland Cavaliers traded for, they traded to the Clippers. They trade that Mo Williams and, you know, a couple assets to the Clippers for a number 1 draft pick, which would come out to be Kyrie Irving in the 2011 draft, right? Now, since LeBron's on that team, he begs him to keep Mo Williams. So that trade never happens. Kyrie Irving never makes it to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the number 1 draft pick. And the Cavaliers, funny, could have capitalized on that 2011 draft. Because remember, number 15 was the quiet yet cerebral assassin that people know him today as the Terminator, Kawhi Leonard. So just imagine if the Cavaliers played their cards right, they had a good GM, they could have drafted Kawhi Leonard at number 15. That was definitely something that they could have done, okay? So they don't get Kyrie Irving, right? But let's just say they make a trade or something. They do some form of business. They get, they could have landed with Kawhi Leonard. Now, you would have had LeBron James, a rookie Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, and, you know, Mo Williams probably would have been traded away. He would have been gone. But for argument's sake, let's just say that never happened. Kawhi Leonard, history never changes. He still ends up going to San Antonio because Cavaliers are a fuck job of a franchise. Okay, so the 2012 season starts, right? Now, Miami Heat is emerging. They still playing good. They land a couple good role players to complement Chris Bosh and D. Wade. Now, you may ask him, what happens to Chris Paul? Since Chris Paul never makes it to the Lakers, he gets traded to the Golden State Warriors. Okay, now I'm going to say why he gets traded to Golden State Warriors. Because remember that at that same time, Golden State Warriors had a rookie under the name of Klay Thompson. They had Monte Williams, all right? And they wanted to get rid of Monte Williams and give the future to Steph Curry. But Klay Thompson, they weren't 100% sold on. They was going to trade him if the right trade came along. Now, he would have been a rookie. So Monte Ellis and Klay Thompson to New Orleans for Chris Paul. And, you know, probably a draft pick or two, whatever. And Chris Paul would have been on the Golden State Warriors, and Klay Thompson and Anthony Davis would have ended up playing together for the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, keep in mind, nobody known Klay Thompson was going to become Klay Thompson. Okay, not even the Golden State Warriors. That's why they had him on the trading block. And Whenever a superstar is presentable, you always make that trade. You see what they did to Andrew Wiggins with Kevin Love, right? Because one guy was an established superstar already. The other guy was a question mark. You didn't know. All right, that's the business of making trades. All right, so that trade takes place. All right, we go into the playoffs. LeBron wins the MVP because he puts that team on his back. I mean, he got Tyson Chandler. They rolling. They playing good. A lot of people got them as title contenders. Just because they playing good in the regular season. All right, so the Bulls with Derrick Rose was still playing good, remember? But what happened in the first round of the Bulls and 76ers series, if you remember, that was the beginning of Derrick Rose to broken Rose, okay? His whole career gets damaged, all right? The Bulls end up losing to the 76ers in the first round. The end of the Chicago Bulls era is over, all right? So now you still got the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat on deck. Now, without LeBron James, the Boston Celtics beat the Miami Heat again, all right? And they go on to face the Cavaliers in the 2012 conference finals. And LeBron puts up an MVP-like performance, but still not enough for the 2012 Boston Celtics. They beat LeBron James again. And they go on to the finals to face OKC. Who wins out of that? James Harden didn't show up in that series. He was young. So let's just say the same aspects came about. And Boston Celtics are a veteran team. They know how to handle guys that play iso ball and, individual aspects. And they played good against them in a regular season. So I say Boston Celtics probably beat the OKC Thunder in about 7 games. All right. So instead of having 1 championship, the Boston Celtics end up having 2. All right. Now we go into year 2013. All right, LeBron's fed up, but a miracle happens because Chris Paul is on the Golden State Warriors and they're doing shit. All right, Steph Curry's constantly getting hurt, and Chris Paul is there with a bunch of role players and they're underachieving. And Chris Paul says, you know what? I'm about to be a free agent soon. Because he got traded, but I'm about to be a free agent soon. I said I wasn't going to re-sign with the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm not going to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors. Get me out of here. So Dan Gilbert, who's picks up on this, and LeBron James is close friends with Chris Paul. Somehow, some way, they trade Danny Green. They get rid of Mo Williams. They clean house a little bit. They get Chris Paul on the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right. Now this is the 1 year where LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have 2 All-Stars now, role players. They beat every team in the East. They go to the finals. They face against the San Antonio Spurs. Another player is on that team that pissed off the Boston Celtics because he was beefing with Rajon Rondo. That's Ray Allen. Now, what other team to go on that LeBron is on to piss them off because they were rivals? So he had to go to the rival team that LeBron was on, and that would have been the Cavaliers. So it would have been Ray Allen, Chris Paul, and LeBron James on the Cleveland Cavaliers. History still plays his point. The San Antonio Spurs choke a big lead in Game 6. Ray Allen hits the corner 3. Instead of Chris Bosh flinging the ball out to Ray Allen, it's Tyson Chandler. So Tyson Chandler taps the ball to Ray Allen. Ray Allen hits the game-winning 3. The 3 to tie the game. LeBron finishes business in Game 7. The Cavaliers win their first and only championship in 2013, leaving LeBron's legacy at just 1 championship from there. Outside of that, it'd have been a lot of MVP-like seasons. I don't even know if he would have won another chip after that. But I do know if he stuck it out with Cleveland, I think he would have got at least 1 championship because he would have landed an All-Star sooner or later if the Cavaliers didn't have their head up their ass and they did actually made a good trade. Because that's all would have been lacking. They would have needed a good trade. And if they didn't get that, they would have probably got Kawhi Leonard to do a trade. Because he's drafted 15. So you had 15 chances to land the underrated Kawhi Leonard. Peace.